Hello and welcome to Idea TV News Update. I am Chinatu Oji. We begin with the headlines. Spain dismantles Ghana-bound toxic waste smuggling ring. U.S.-Nigeria address visa rule changes, urge citizens to comply. 6 killed in Kenya medical plane crash, officials confirm. Tanzanians mourn former Speaker Job Ndugai, hailed as courageous yet controversial leader. Away from Africa, Modi and Putin discuss Ukraine and deepen strategic India-Russia partnership. In business, African leaders unveil 3-year plan to slash soaring cost of capital. In sports, 9 African nations compete for 15 million naira at Lagos Esports Tournament. Now the news in full. Spanish authorities have busted a criminal network accused of illegally shipping hazardous waste to Ghana under the guise of second-hand goods. Police arrested 3 suspects in Seville and are investigating a 14 Mosher after intercepting a container of the port of Algeciras carrying 19 tons of toxic material, including used vehicle engines, gasoline, laced fuel tanks, and oil-contaminated waste. Officials from Andalusia's regional government revealed that the shipment's customs document had been falsified, raising red flags over potential customs fraud and serious environmental violations. International laws strictly prohibit the export of hazardous waste to countries lacking adequate treatment infrastructure. The suspect all Ghanaian nationals now face charges of environmental crime and membership in a criminal organization. Interpol and environmental watchdogs have long raised the alarm about Europe's role in offloading hazardous waste into African nations, often disguised as charitable or commercial exports. The high cost of waste processing in Europe, combined with lax enforcement in receiving countries, has fueled a black market that continues to turn parts of Africa into toxic dumping grounds for industrial and electronic waste. Woko Ma explained that this move would boost transparency, accountability, and fiscal efficiency. He urged all government institutions to adhere strictly to the new directive to avoid breaches. Moving on, the United States Ambassador to Nigeria Richard Mills and Nigeria's Minister of Information and National Orientation Idris Mohammed have jointly addressed the latest changes in U.S. visa policy, urging Nigerians to comply with the new rules and avoid practices that could damage bilateral relations. During a press conference in Abuja today, the 2 officials clarified that the revised U.S. visa regulations, which now limit the validity of certain non-immigrant visas, like B1, B2 business and tourism, F students, and J exchange visitor to 3 months with single entry, are not meant to punish Nigerians but to improve global security and service efficiency. Mills emphasized the strength of U.S.-Nigeria relations and noted that while the U.S. welcomes Nigerians for education, tourism, business, and family visits, visa misuse, including overstaying or false declarations, will no longer be tolerated. He further stressed the importance of honesty in visa applications and encouraged Nigerians to visit the official U.S. Embassy website for accurate guidance. Highlighting the new measures, Mills revealed that the U.S. is now seeking greater access to Nigerian criminal records and other security data during the vetting process. He also reminded students that neglecting academic obligations in the U.S. could lead to visa revocation. Minister Mohammed commended the U.S. for its transparency and reaffirmed Nigeria's commitment to keeping its citizens informed. The minister echoed the U.S. position that the new policies are not discriminatory, but are in line with efforts to improve service delivery and uphold international laws. Mohammed further said that the renewed partnership with the U.S. aligns with the federal government's New Hope agenda aimed at enhancing international cooperation that benefits Nigerians at home and abroad. Moving on, a tragic plane crash in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, has claimed 6 lives after a small medical aircraft operated by AMREF flying doctors went down shortly after takeoff. The Cessna aircraft departed Wilson Airport on Thursday afternoon and was headed for Hargeisa in Somalia, but crashed into a residential building at the Giturai area, erupting in flames. According to Kiambu County Commissioner Henry Wafula, all 4 people on board, including doctors, nurses, and the pilot, died in the crash. 2 other fatalities occurred on the ground, while 2 more individuals sustained serious injuries. Authorities are working to identify the victims and provide support to affected families. Investigators have been deployed to determine the cause of the accident. The incident has sent shockwaves through medical and humanitarian communities, as AMREF Flying Doctors is known for its critical work delivering emergency healthcare services across East Africa. Moving on, Tanzania is in mourning following the death of veteran lawmaker and former Speaker of Parliament, Job Ndugai, who passed away in Dodoma at the age of 62. His death was announced on Wednesday by current Speaker Tulia Ackson, though the cause was not disclosed. The local report suggests that he had been receiving medical treatment in the capital city. President Samia Suluhu Hassan expressed deep sorrow over his passing and extended condolences to his family and the nation. Ndugai served as a member of parliament for 25 years and held the position of speaker from 2015 until his resignation in 2022, which followed the public fallout with President Samia over Tanzania's rising national debt. Known earlier in his career for his active participation in parliament and cross-party support, Ndugai later became a polarizing figure. He drew criticism for remarks deemed insensitive, especially towards opposition MPs like Tundu Lissu, and was often accused of compromising parliamentary independence in favor of executive power. His eventual resignation came after he warned that excessive borrowing could lead to the country being auctioned, a statement he later publicly apologized for. Despite the controversies, the ruling CCM party and many Tanzanians remember Ndugai as a patriot and a committed public servant who contributed significantly to the parliamentary governance. At the time of his death, he had just secured his party's nomination to contest for the Kongwa's constituency in the upcoming general elections. Funeral arrangements are now underway with further details to be announced by Parliament. We go on a quick break now. The news continues when we return. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still Idea TV News Updates. Now the rest of the stories. Away from Africa, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a very good and detailed conversation on Friday, focusing on the Ukraine conflict and reinforcing the long-standing ties between their countries. Modi expressed appreciation for the update on Ukraine shared by Putin during the phone call and emphasized his anticipation of hosting the Russian leader in India later this year. The exchange comes at a sensitive time amid rising global tensions and economic pressures. The dialogue between the two leaders followed a sharp escalation in U.S.-India trade tensions as President Donald Trump imposed steep tariffs on Indian goods. The first phase of the 25% duties began on Thursday, with a second round set to take effect in 3 weeks, raising the total tariff to 50%. Washington's move is in retaliation for India's continued importation of discounted Russian oil, a strategy that has saved the country billions of dollars in energy costs and helped stabilize domestic fuel prices. However, it has drawn criticism from the West, which views such purchases as indirect support for Moscow's war effort in Ukraine. Despite international pressure, India and Russia continue to maintain close diplomatic and economic ties rooted in decades of cooperation. Russia remains one of India's largest suppliers of arms, and the enduring strategic relationship dates back to the Soviet era. The latest high-level conversation between Modi and Putin signals the reaffirmation of mutual interest in defense, energy, and global diplomacy, even as India balances its position in an increasingly polarized geopolitical state. And now in business, at the Financing Africa Forward Summit held in Johannesburg, the coalition of leaders highlighted the urgency of addressing the sharp disparity in borrowing costs, with African countries reportedly paying up to 500% more for capital market loans compared to financing from multilateral development banks. As Africa's external debt service is expected to hit $89 billion by last year, the summit called for bold, context-driven reforms to reshape the financial landscape and halt capital fight that continues to outpace incoming development funds. The proposed plan resets on 4 key pillars, advocating for reforms in the global financial architecture to better serve African economies, strengthening government capacity and market efficiency, improving the quality, availability, and credibility of African financial data, and reshaping global narratives around African risk and investment potential. Leaders at the summit agreed that a coalition of willing African institutions will lead implementation within 12 to 36 months, ensuring that solutions remain self-determined and align with long-term development goals. Key voices at the summit reinforced the call for urgent change. Africa Finance Corporation CEO Samali Zubeiru lamented that the $75 billion annual loss Africa incurs due to what he described as a prejudice premium. Ndidi Muneli, CEO of the One Campaign, described affordable capital as a lifeline, not a luxury, while Standard Bank CEO Sim Shabalala emphasized that reducing capital costs is essential for unlocking opportunity and prosperity. And finally, in sports, the Lagos State Sports Commission, LSSC, is back in the 4th edition of the Game RX Africa Esports Tournament, taking place today at the landmark event center, Lagos. The highly anticipated event will see gamers from 9 African countries, including Kenya, Ghana, Mozambique, Senegal, Cameroon, Benin Republic, Ivory Coast, South Africa, and Nigeria, competing for a 15 million naira prize pool. According to the LSSC, the tournament is seen as a strategic opportunity for the government to harness a rapidly expanding esports market, with the global gaming industry growing exponentially. Lagos is setting itself up as a hub for digital sport innovation and youth engagement. Participants will contest across 6 popular titles: Street Fighter, EAFC 25, Fortnite, Mortal Kombat, PUBG, and Call of Duty Mobile. The organizers have introduced new features in this year's edition with a strong emphasis on inclusion and accessibility, ensuring that both women and individuals with disabilities are actively represented in the competition. Game R, the tournament host, is driving efforts to dismantle stereotypes around gaming being a male-dominated space by creating more opportunities for female gamers and showcasing their capabilities. The organizers are also expanding their vision beyond Nigeria with plans to take the Game R tournament across other African nations, transforming it into a continent-wide esports movement. There is also a renewed call on parents to recognize the professional potential of gaming, which was once seen as a pastime, now viewed as a viable career path for many young people globally, with professional players now earning sponsorships, building audiences, and gaining international exposure. And that's all we have for you on Idea TV News Updates. But before we go, here's a quick recap of the headlines. Spain dismantles Ghana-bound toxic waste smuggling ring. US and Nigeria address visa rule changes and urge citizens to comply. 6 killed in Kenya medical plane crash, officials confirm. Tanzanians mourn former Speaker Job Ndugai and hailed as courageous yet controversial leader. Away from Africa, Modi and Putin discussed Ukraine and deepened strategic India-Russia partnership. In business, African leaders unveiled 3-year plan to slash soaring cost of capital. In sports, 9 African nations compete for 15 million naira Lagos Esports Tournament. Do not forget to follow us across all our social media platforms at Idea TV. I am Chinatu Oji. Thank you for watching.